Welcome back to LoganExplores. I'm your host, Logan. Tonight, we're not exploring the postcard version of a town. We're stepping into the shadows, because beneath the quiet streets and historic brick buildings of Statesville, there are stories that don't make the brochures. Stories of frontier violence, of war and division, of public executions, a fire swallowing downtown whole, of a train plunging into darkness at Bostian Bridge. This episode isn't about fear, it's about truth, because every town has a dark side. Moments of tragedy, injustice, and survival that shaped what it would become. And tonight, we're walking straight into it. This is the dark history of Statesville, North Carolina. If you drive through Statesville today, you'll see brick storefronts, courthouse steps, quiet neighborhoods. It feels peaceful. But peace is usually built on survival. And survival leaves scars. Tonight, we're not telling the polished story. We're telling the one that lingers in the shadows. This is the dark side of Statesville. Before there was a courthouse, before there were railroads, this was contested land. In 1756, on the edge of the North Carolina frontier, the British built Fort Dobbs. It stood alone in the wilderness. Its purpose? Protection. Its reality? Violence. During the Anglo-Cherokee War in 1760, Cherokee warriors attacked the fort under cover of darkness. Muskets fired into the night. Men inside the walls were wounded. Blood stained the earth. This frontier wasn't romantic. It was brutal. And this land remembers the first screams that echoed across it. Statesville was born from fear. Now, if we move on, by the early 1800s, the town, then known as Statesville, was growing. But prosperity came at a cost. Enslaved men, women, and children were forced to work farms and households throughout Iredell County. Families were separated. Lives were controlled. Voices were silenced. When you walk downtown today, you're walking through a place that once upheld human bondage as law. There are no visible chains now, but history didn't disappear just because it's uncomfortable. When the Civil War erupted in 1861, men from Statesville joined the Confederacy. Some believed they were defending homes. Others had no choice. They marched away. Many never returned. After 1865, the Confederacy was gone. The economy collapsed. Reconstruction brought tension, political hostility, and racial violence across North Carolina. Formerly enslaved citizens sought freedom and rights. Resistance followed. Like much of the South, the post-war period saw intimidation, racial terror, and deep division. The war ended, but bitterness stayed. Justice in the 1800s was swift and public. Executions took place in Iredell County. Hangings were sometimes public spectacles. Crowds gathered. Children watched. A trapdoor opened. The old Iredell County jail housed accused killers of desperate men awaiting their fate. Just imagine the sound of chains, the final night in a narrow cell, the silence before dawn. That kind of fear leaves a mark. In 1891, disaster struck downtown Statesville. A massive fire tore through wooden buildings. Flames consumed the business. Smoke filled the streets. It destroyed large sections of town. But that wasn't the only tragedy that year. August 27th, 1891, a Richmond and Danville passenger train was heading east. As it crossed Bostian Bridge, the wooden trestle failed. The locomotive and cars plunged nearly 60 feet. Passengers were crushed. Steam hissed into the night air. At least 23 people died. Dozens were injured. Some victims were trapped in the wreckage. It became one of the deadliest train wrecks in North Carolina history. And for over a century, locals have whispered about phantom train sounds near the site. Stranger still, in 2010, another train derailed in the same location. Same ground, different century. Some call it coincidence, others call it cursed. In the 19th century, outbreaks of diseases like typhoid and influenza swept through small southern towns like Statesville. Medical knowledge was limited. People died quickly. Family cemeteries and unmarked graves dot the county. Not every burial was recorded. Not every story was told. Sometimes history is quiet because no one survived to write it down. In 1927, elegance arrived. The Vance Hotel became a centerpiece of downtown Statesville. Politicians stayed there. Travelers passed through. Deals were made in its dining rooms. But buildings that see decades of human emotion collect something. Guests have reported unexplained noises, cold spots, the feeling of being watched. Is it folklore? Maybe. But hotels are crossroads, and crossroads have energy. North Carolina used convict leasing and chain gangs well into the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Prisoners were forced into hard labor building roads and infrastructure. Conditions were harsh. Abuse was common. Justice was uneven. The roads around Iredell County were built in part by men who had no choice. Not all darkness is dramatic. Some of it is systemic. Statesville today is vibrant, but modern challenges have left their mark. Crime waves, drug epidemics, economic hardship. The past and present overlap more than we think. The town survives, but survival doesn't erase what came before. If you stand in downtown Statesville at night, when traffic is quiet, when the air feels still, you're standing on layers. Frontier bloodshed, slavery, war, execution, fire, railroad catastrophe, epidemics, hard labor, whispers in old hallways. Statesville is not defined by darkness, but it was shaped by it. And maybe that's the truth about every town. The beauty you see exists because something survived. This has been Logan Explores, where we don't just tell history, we step into it. And be sure to tune in to the next episode, Murder in Iredell County, the crimes that shook Statesville, where we will be exploring in that episode covering infamous local murder cases and how they impacted the community. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.